We're going to continue talking about hiring, but today we're going to focus on if your new hire should be an independent contractor or an employee. My name is Tony Cameron with TLDR Accounting, and we provide tax and accounting services to therapists in private practice. So, independent contractor, employee, which one are you hiring for? The biggest question is control, right? Who has control and decision-making abilities? So now this isn't a cut and dry situation, and each situation is going to be different. So I would encourage you to take a look at our blog post. We listed it below, and you take a look at some of the IRS tests. So the first question we ask folks before they start talking about if they're going to hire a contractor, an IC or an employee, is how much control do you want over that person? And control has like all sorts of horrible connotations, but it's more, do you want to be able to dictate the hours your employee works or your hire works, right? Should they be working 9 to 5 or 8 to 4? How many clients should they be working with? Are you going to have them sign up on insurance panels or not? Is it going to be private pay only? Do you only want them working with, having their average session fee to hit a certain amount? Do you want to be able to evaluate them? All of that falls under that control heading, right? If they're an employee, you control all of that because you're their employer, right? You control all of the office hours, processes, what they use, how they use it, documentation, all of that falls under you, and that's definitely an employee. A flip side of this is an example of a contractor would be, say you need an employment agreement written up, and so you work with a lawyer to write up an employment agreement. They're not an employee. They're usually going to be an independent contractor, or they're going to be a business owner that's providing that service to other people, which is also key, that they're providing their services to other people. They sign the employment contract. You don't tell them how to job. You just be like, hey, can you do this employment contract for us? And then you use the employment contract, right? That's a very clear situation where that is not an employee of yours, right? It's another business that you're doing business with, and they're not an employee. They're just a lawyer writing some things up for you. So officially from the IRS, what they say is an individual is an independent contractor if the payer, which is you as the employer, has the right to control or direct only the results of the work and not what will be done or how it will be done. Which means that if they are an independent contractor, the employer only gets the results. So I need you to meet with these clients each week. That's all you control. You do not control how it will be done, when it will be done, just that is what they're going to do for you. They're going to have sessions with clients. That's it, right? That is the only thing you can control, which is kind of terrifying as a business owner, because what if that independent contractor only wants to work with 5 clients moving forward, and you have a list of 18 clients for that person? Now you need to figure out what you're going to do with the difference of these clients because they're suddenly dropping their hours, right? That's the risk of hiring an independent contractor versus hiring an employee. Another good analogy of this is if you're going to hire someone to paint your house, right? You don't, they're not an employee of yours. They're just painting your house and then they're done. You're not going to tell them how to do their job. You're going to pick out a paint color. You're good to go, right? That is not an employee. So the control is the first thing. The second thing is the financial aspects of it. So how are you paying them? An independent contractor, they get a 1099. So that needs to be paid out via, you need to give them a 1099 each year. They're not put on payroll. They just get paid that way. An employee is paid through regular payroll. You have to register with Washington State that they're an employee. You pay L&I, workers' comp, unemployment, all of that, right? So that all gets built into the costs of having an employee versus an independent contractor. In most cases, you end up paying an independent contractor more than you pay an employee. And that's because an employee, you pay half of the payroll taxes, right? And so that helps even it out versus the independent contractor is going to be paying the employer and the employee taxes on the income on their personal tax return, right? So you're going to spend more for an independent contractor than you are for an employee, right? So that's another thing to keep in mind, right? A, you lose control with an independent contractor and you need to pay them more. Those are two things just about independent contractors. On the plus side, independent contractor is very hands-off, right? They just do what they're contracted to do. You can't be like, attend this CPE session. You can't provide training. You can't enforce training. That's all on them. That is not on you. Now, these are just some examples and some guidance for if you should hire an independent contractor versus an employee. In most cases, we see therapists, private practice owners end up hiring employees. Most of the time they come from a place where they were working as an independent contractor in a group practice and that wasn't for them, which is part of the reason why they're building their own practice or their own group practice. Now, there are risks with if it turns out that you're working or saying that someone should be an independent contractor and they actually should be an employee. So there is risk there. It doesn't ever go the other way where if someone is an employee that you get fines and penalties because they should have been an independent contractor. That doesn't work that way. Because a lot of people try and push folks to being an independent contractor when they should be an employee just because there's more regulations surrounding an employee and there's more things that the employer needs to pay. When in doubt, always let your independent contractors have more control and freedom than you think, because that's where a big part of this lies. Overall, the big thing, do your research. Make sure you really look at, are they an independent contractor? Am I controlling things? Have a lawyer take a look at your independent contractor agreement or your employee agreement, because you should have, if you're working with independent contractors, you should have an independent contractor agreement signed that both of you agree with. You should have a lawyer review that. Same with an employee contract. You always want to have a lawyer take a look over those for what you're going to be using for your business. Like I said, most people end up hiring employees, so they do have that control. There's less risk there, and they can, budget for their business better, because we have seen it where someone had an independent contractor, they had 18 clients a week. They were like, nope, I'm cutting down to 5 next week. And there you go, right? Now you need to replace the independent contractor, find, folks to cover that, and that creates tension, right? There's risk there. Biggest thing, independent contractors and employees are different. They are not the same thing. It comes down to control. It's a huge test on it. Make sure you're very aware of this, and either way, have an agreement reviewed by a lawyer to take a look at this before you hire someone, either as an IC or as an employee. Hopefully you found this helpful. If so, subscribe below.